Welcome back to a very special episode of the Football Fitness Federation podcast. Before I get into it and just tell you about who I've got sat next to me, I just want to say a massive thank you to UA92. You can see we are at the university recording this podcast, so a big thank you to them. Make sure if anyone's in the position of looking for courses, looking for universities, there's no better city in the world than Manchester, so make sure you check them out. I want to welcome onto the podcast for the third time, completing the hat-trick.
Yeah, hat-trick now.
Mr. Jordan Tyra. Jordan, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you.
Coming back on.
Yeah, thank you.
We've got quite a bit to cover and a few things to reveal on this episode as well. But let's start how we always start, which is about you and your background. I know you've covered it on previous episodes, but give us a little bit of an update and take us back.
Yeah, fair. No apologies again if people have heard this before. I'll try and keep it brief. I do like to waffle. But it started off probably a similar tale, really. It kind of all started, tore my ACL at 18. Like most S&C coaches, sports scientists, they've had a bad injury at some point and it kind of propels them towards the career. But couldn't play football, so I wanted to do something else, which was coaching at the time. As I was going through the rehab stages just after surgery, I was going to uni as well, sports science at Leeds. So I was studying sports science in the week and doing kind of youth grassroots coaching at the weekend in and around the Leeds area, and tying the two together and really kind of enjoying that. I really enjoyed the technical side of it, started getting my badges done, and that was really starting to take off, and I was kind of thinking actually this could be something, but at the same time the sports science was getting into me as well. A little bit of rehab for my knee and all that sorts of stuff going on, and just really starting to start the journey really. And then those experiences helped me kind of land a full-time placement at Southampton, which was an unbelievable year for me. Kind of shaped my development as an S&C sports scientist, whatever it will call us. And it was also a great year to be at Southampton. It was a season A, qualified for Europe with Ronald Koeman in charge, and kind of that really strong Streets Will Never Forget team that they used to have. And it's just a brilliant place for somebody with wide eyes wanting to be in the football industry to learn essentially and start. So I was mainly based with the 916s. Sam Scott kind of line managing me and helping me through that, and that was really, really good. I just finished that year and just wanted to get back to uni, third year, and just get that ticked off, and this was me now. I wanted to work in football, but knew I needed to kind of carry on. Even though I was finishing my studies, I needed to get more experience, so managed to land a job at Barnsley, which was great. Paul Bauer and Luke Dobson there, kind of line managing it and leading me as well. So finishing uni, finally getting to the stage of graduating, looking at what the industry looked like, and you could see that every job advert getting thrown out there, everyone needed a master's. So actually took the decision to leave Barnsley at that point and go and do a master's at Salford, not far from here. University of Salford, Paul Comfort leading that, John McMahon as well, other big names in the industry who've been guests on Football Fitness as well. So really, really perfect for me because it was a chance to double down, great course, and learn more about S&C specifically. But again, I wanted to keep the experience going, so I got a job at Blackburn Rovers Ladies part-time. And that was, other end of the spectrum really, from Southampton, Premier League, Cat 1 Academy, outstanding facilities at Staplewood. Blackburn Rovers Ladies at the time, I think they were still kind of led by the community of the club as well. So trained at an old 3G at a college in the middle of Darwin in Blackburn. Very little facilities. It was a college gym. It was mainly cardio equipment, cross trains and things like that. So again, it was kind of a bit of those water into wine rolls, I called them. And it was a lot of problems and lots of solutions you had to come up with in an environment where it was tough. So that's where you kind of earn your bread and butter, I think, as an S&C coach starting out. You've got to try and find these solutions. And that really helped me. Spent a season there, kind of graduated my masters, and then actually managed to join Liverpool Ladies as well the season after, which again was a brilliant opportunity with the RTC. It's called in the women's game. It's RTC rather than Academy. Helping out with first team as well and assisting with them in the WSL. Some brilliant big names, former England captains, Gemma Bonner, Casey Stoney, Alex Greenwood, players that go on to win European titles and things, and you're working with them and trying to help them on a voluntary basis. But mainly for my role, in the time it was with the RTC and the Academy, training at Kirby as well. So brilliant opportunity again, just kind of try and find what my stamp of S&C was, my stamp of sports science, and what I was trying to do. But the realities of women's football at the time, because we're talking 6-7 years ago now, it's come a long way. But again, back then there wasn't much money in the roles. It was a kind of voluntary and part-time 0-hour contracts, kind of things like that. So the realities of life where I needed to get a full-time role somewhere and put food on the table essentially and pay the rent. So that summer that was a lot of interviews, a lot of traveling the country, back-to-back interviews, trying to land roles, and some interviews for clubs I was never ready for, but managed to land a brilliant role at Notts County, which was lead academy S&C at the time. So again, if anyone knows anything about academies in English football, we've got the category system, and EPPP kind of dictate on what category level you are. For Cat 3 academies, which is what Notts County were, they don't necessarily need full-time sports science S&C support, but they wanted to do things right. They created the role, and that was the role I went into. And I was so excited at the time, because I remember finally my first big role to lead an academy and what the shape of that's going to look like from the schoolboy programme and upwards. Here we go, really good chance for me, and that's when we recorded our first podcast way back when. Episode number 9, I think it was. So yeah, a long time ago. And things were looking really bright at the club. They had Kevin Nolan in charge. They just missed out on the playoffs the season before to League One. So the club were trying to do things the right way. Good catchment area, great city in Nottingham. Everything was looking rosy. And then football had its wicked ways, like it sometimes does in life. And previous owners and poor financial decisions, and the club essentially went bankrupt. 6 months later, which when you're a practitioner just starting out was nuts. You didn't really know what you were doing. The staff weren't getting paid, and all of a sudden you're thinking, I've got this really exciting role that's going to kind of really kickstart my career and put a chance to put my own shine on things. And now all of a sudden I'm trying to save a career before it's even really kind of properly kicked off. And big soft spot for Notts County. Anyone who knows me will know I always talk about Notts County. Nice big kind of full circle. It does make me chuckle that they're now back in the Football League. They're now back in the big time where they belong. So yeah, really nice that they're back. But for me at the time, I was like, oh, what do I do now? And how do I save some sort of career here? Fortunately, a similar role but head of academy sports science at Lincoln came up. So while Notts County, unfortunately at the time, were sliding down, Lincoln were on the way up under the Cowleys. And again, credit to Lincoln, and they wanted to do things right in the academy, full-time role, head of academy sports science, and I managed to get that one. And spent a great first season there, or part of the first season, where great pre-season, good run in the Youth Cup, ended up playing Man United as well. It was a brilliant experience for the players and the staff, and went for an audit, brilliant glowing report from the audit, and everything was looking rosy. And then the pandemic hit, and then COVID hit. And the world, as we all knew it, kind of ground to a halt, and certainly in football it did, and a really mental time. Kind of call it luck, whatever it was, but February 2020, literally just before COVID became a thing, I started my own company called the Physical Performance Coach, with an idea at the time that it might one day be a side hustle kind of thing, and I'll just kind of register the company and maybe just do a little bit in the background. And lo and behold, a month or two later, when the world's in lockdown, that was a chance for me to actually go, right, well, I might put a bit of love into this now. And then it was a weird time, furlough, off furlough, on furlough, off furlough, and you could see the way the world's going. Unfortunately, League 2, League 1 clubs were hit really hard with not having gate receipts. The financial impact of COVID was massive on lower league football, and League 1, League 2 clubs, etc. So, I wasn't silly. You could see what was probably going to happen. Like I said, credit to Lincoln and Notts County before, they wanted to do things right and have a full-time member of staff. But according to EPPP rules, Cat 3 clubs don't need full-time members of staff, so you could kind of put 2 and 2 together and see that if clubs are going to need to making redundancies, my role is probably going to be one of them. Ended up it was that case, and it was kind of a bit of a moment where you're going, right, well, what's going on now with me and football? We're not best friends at the minute. For one club go bust, one global pandemic hit in, and it's impacted my career quite significantly now. So chance that locked down a lot of time to kind of get the physical performance coach up and running and ready to go. And so that was the time I decided, right, let's go for it. So stepped into the private world, stepped away from football a little bit, had a nice break from full-time football and academy football and things like that, professional game, but stepped into the private world and working with semi-pro lads, just private clients and previous athletes and things like that, and was loving life. Work-life balance was way better. Anyone who's worked in a Cat 3 environment will know that work-life balance is full on. You've got to be on it all the time, and it does take over your life a little bit. So to have that breathing space, really have weekends back. I started playing football again on a Saturday. It was great, and I was fully committed to it. But then yeah, it was really quite big moment really. In that I remember it clear as day. It was a Friday night, and my missus was round. She was brushing her teeth, and I checked my phone, and I had a message from Ben Bradley at Bournemouth, and he'd asked would we be interested in the under-9 16s lead sports scientist role. And previous relationships, when I'd suggest I've got a potential job, 200 plus miles away, and met with quite stern and frank answers if you suggest it to your loved one. But I was expecting a similar answer, just kind of joking. He said, "Oh, what do you think about me moving down to Bournemouth and getting a job there?" And she went, "Well, is it something you're interested in? Is it something you'd want to do?" And actually, a bit shocked, kind of went, "Oh, I'll have to think about it actually." And lo and behold, had a think, got in touch, responded to Ben, and just over a month later, I moved down and started at Bournemouth. So it was a whirlwind, but to have, at the time, top of the Championship when they were there, and a club I'd previously applied for and interviewed for in that summer before I got the Notts County role. So, and just missed out on the role, and actually missed out on the role to Elliot Whiteside, who's still the sports scientist for the 21s at Bournemouth now. Brilliant guy, brilliant practitioner. So to have that kind of come back round a few years later, and now actually go and join Bournemouth at the time, it was fantastic. And on the club, the journey the club were going on as well, was really exciting. It looked like they were going to get promoted back to the Premier League, and luckily they did. And a brilliant academy that was well established, and sports science was already the program there was already established as well. So nice for me to just step into and kind of really immerse myself in it. So that we did, and finished that season. It was a brilliant season. Missus finally moved down, but that was a really momentous bit. And the reason I mentioned a bit about the missus is because somebody was willing to uproot and let the person that they love just move 200 plus miles away. And my missus, bless her, somehow was coming down every weekend, driving down because she couldn't move down at that point due to work commitments. So she was committing a lot of hours and a lot of money and petrol coming down and seeing us, and I was down in Bournemouth. Eventually she moved down, and we try and start putting roots down, and then that kind of leads us into this season just gone. Really good pre-season, really good solid season with Bournemouth. It's been a really exciting time. New, kind of retain the Premier League status, new training ground on the way, new owners. Really exciting times. Bournemouth have been a really good solid season. The 9-16s, who are predominantly my age groups, have a really good solid year. A lot of new scholarships have been signed from under 15s and 16s players. So it's been a really nice solid season, and then here we are now in the off season. So me and Mrs. are happy down south. We've kind of put our roots down there, as I've said from that little overview. Bounced around a lot, lived in a lot of different cities and lots of different locations. So quite nice to finally put some roots down. But with all that said, and all the really good noise and really positive place there is at AFC Bournemouth right now, I took the decision to leave for reasons we will get onto later. But a big decision really, and one definitely made with my missus in mind, and other things as well. So that kind of brings us to today, and lots of moving around and lots of money spent on moving trucks. So yeah, whistle stop tour.
No, that's really good, and really good detail as well. And you've sort of gone into some of the topics we were going to cover as well. But I think one of the main things is around the decisions that go into taking certain opportunities. You've talked there about family, about moving. These are all realities of jobs that come up, aren't they? It's something that probably coaches don't tend to take into consideration so much when you're getting your degree and just chasing those first few opportunities.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you're old by any means, but when you get a few years of experience, things change, don't they?
Yeah.
And the decisions maybe are implicated by a few different things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're getting at, isn't it? With family, and there's more than just yourself that comes into those decisions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think back to when I was at Liverpool Ladies and living in Liverpool. I mean, anyone who knows me know I'm a Liverpool fan, lifelong Liverpool fan. Wanted to stay in Liverpool, close to a lot of my family up there as well, and loved being in the city. But the realities of life were needed to put food on the table. The wages in women's football at the time weren't as they are now. It's brilliant to see the women's game grow so much. Still a long way to go, but it's brilliant to see it in the space of 6 years. It has grown a lot, but that's the reality. You got to move, and like I said, previous relationships and I'd suggested our potential role in London when I was in Manchester and all this sorts of stuff. It was like, well, if you move, we're not going to stay together. That's for you. And, unfortunately, if you spend any time working in full-time football, you do see, people's relationships break down, divorces happen, people have to move for a long way away from their families, because that's the reality. You have to move for the role a lot of the time. So there are things which do come into play. So yeah, when my missus, turned around to me and very maturely said, is it something you would want to do and actually think about doing and potentially enjoy the role, then think about it and let's make it work. It was like, well, hang on, I've got somebody clearly in my life who's worth holding on to here. And a big, that was a real kind of big moment for me and a big momentous point where I always look back to and refer to it, because, I'm going to go against the famous Shankly quote that, nothing's more important than football, and life is it's bigger than football at times, unfortunately. And I know we all like to think football is the most important thing, but it's not. Family, friends, and your health and stuff like that is more important. And to have somebody in your life willing to move and sacrifice so much, it means a lot, and it does change perspective on things. So like you say, as you get a little bit older, I'm nearly 31 now, so looking at what's next, families and settling down, you have got to take them into consideration. And sometimes you can make that work. Some people's families are incredibly supportive and they help them work full time in football. Sometimes not so much, but it's just dependent on who you've got around you and your support network, I suppose, and what you value as well.
I think that's a big point, isn't it? Is the value. You see a trend at the moment, don't you, of a lot of coaches questioning this, whether they're going to stay in football long term. Dave Carolan came on the podcast recently and spoke really well about the reasons to be at a club.
Yeah,
he's obviously been at a number of different clubs for a number of years, and I think he made some great points around it.
He did.
And I think every individual situation is different. We're not saying that everyone should come out of the game. We're not saying everyone should be in the game for a full career.
Yeah.
I think the big thing about this podcast is getting across some of the decisions that Jordan's spoke about and some of the aspects of that decision.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into it, isn't it? Rather than
100%.
Just looking at a club, looking at an opportunity and thinking, I'm going to take it or not.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, a lot of it comes back to when I was working privately in Nottingham. I had a bit of a business mentor then, and he kind of got me down. One of the first things when he first met me and we spoke, he said, what are your 3 to thrive? 3 things which, you need to do each day, week, month, to just kind of get you going, get you out of bed kind of thing. And I took a bit of time thinking about it and put it together. And my 3 were my family, my missus, my family, my friends, my health, including my missus's health and that health and well-being kind of thing. And the third one was kind of financial stability, if you want to call it that, just the ability to live and put food on the table. And what I noticed from those was that actually my career in football isn't one of those 3. It's a sub factor essentially of that financial stability, but even still, it doesn't have to be a career in football. It's just as long as I'm financially stable and able to pay the rent and put food on the table, and me and my missus can live and occasionally afford a nice little meal or something. That's what's important to me. So once I kind of looked at that and realised what the priorities were for me at that time in my life, and it does change things. Now, if I was to do that 3 to thrive 5 years earlier than that, when I was just starting out, then it would have been probably get a career in football and get a trajectory through the career ladder, or whatever you want to call it. So it's your situation at that time. Now, don't get me wrong, I've loved working in football. The experiences I've had have been brilliant. But for me right now and my situation, it's slightly different, and the values that you've got. So you've got to look at it at that point in time, really, I think.
I love that. And I also love that needs to be repeated.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because you at different ages are going to make different decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wanted to talk because you've been to, I don't know how many of our events.
I think we said 15, didn't we, after the Dublin one?
It's been a fair few.
Yeah.
It's been a fair few. But I wanted to just speak about some of the experiences that you've had with Football Fitness Federation and some of the key takeaways that you've taken from the events and the opportunities that it's given you as well. Yeah,
I think, well, there's no secret. I am Football Fitness Federation's fangirl. Add the 4th F on there. I mean, I remember the first one was when I was at University of Salford. Again, if you call it fate, call it luck, whatever you want to call it, but it was down the road from me when I was, at University of Salford, and you were Paul Bauer, my old boss from Barnsley, doing the first presentation at the hotel in Salford. So it was a no-brainer. I'm obviously going to go to that. I'd seen it advertised on socials. I didn't know who the company were at the time, but I'd seen it on Twitter, and I was like, oh yeah, of course I'm going to go to that. It's my old boss, and this looks like a free opportunity, network opportunity. This would be great. And from then it's just snowballed, because straight away I could see the like-minded professionals in the room who were just networking and chatting and sharing ideas, and a presentation from a top quality practitioner that you're taking loads from. I'd seen Paul work, I knew a lot, but you could see other people in the room that were going, oh wow, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I'll take that back to my club and my players that I work with and stuff like that. And you go, wow, this is powerful, this is good, And then went to Arsenal. We've got looked at all these other places that we've been at, Aston Villa, Dublin recently, and things like this. And you go in, wow, like these are really good events, And you get to network. You get to see some of the quality of the presentations and stuff, and some of the content on there, and you're going, wow, I'm just nicking that and I'm taking it back to the club I'm working at, and I'm going to put that in place. And there's not, it's not a secret that the reason I go to so many events is because I take something from each one to help my practice improve. I meet somebody new at every single one, and that does come around again. And we know that networking and actually just putting a face to a name sometimes is really, really important. And the power of that, is that it will lead you potentially to job opportunities. And we know people who, through Football Fitness Federation, have been put in front of people that have later landed roles because of the networking event or a podcast or whatever it might be. But for me, it's simple, really. It's an opportunity to go and learn from other people, learn from people better than you and better practitioners who put together stuff on slides that you can just go, wow, taking that and taking it back with me. Thank you very much. But I think it's just the sharing, collaboration of ideas that's the most important thing. It increases our value as a community of physical performance coaches, include physios and sports therapists, psychologists, nutritionists in that. As a community and a cohort of coaches and performance staff, then it increases our value, because essentially what we're doing is we're just taking knowledge from other people and bettering ourselves. And then if we're talking about bringing new practitioners into the game, new students or whatever, we can pass that on to them. They're upskilled and they're upskilled, and eventually our value becomes as a cohort really, really high, and gives us really good credibility in the industry to be like, actually our opinions and our values and what we work for and how we help players is a really important thing, and we're an integral part of a football club or a footballer's support network or whatever it might be in whatever model. And that just comes from the collaboration of ideas, and it just snowballs. And that's why I think Football Fitness Federation has snowballed from that one meeting in a hotel room to where it is now. Going internationally and going into Dublin and having speakers like Shane Murphy and Des Ryan and things like that. So yeah, a really positive experience. And you've been along every single journey I've had, and so it's been reciprocated in the other way around for Football Fitness Federation. So yeah, positive experiences, no negatives for football fitness for me. So
I think one thing to take away, and we've spoke about this a lot, is I know you share something you've just touched on there, that we've got to try and we want to strive to improve the value of what coaches do. There's some incredible practitioners doing some amazing work, and sometimes our industry gets caught in not highlighting that, not speaking about it, keeping things a secret, and not showcasing what they do. So when we do speak about value, whether that is financially or whether that literally just is people knowing what sports scientists or S&C coaches do, I know you share this, that we're really passionate to improve that. I feel like if you go into a club and you ask what a physio does, a lot of people will be able to answer that. If you go into a club or even outside of a club and you say, what does a sports scientist do? What does an S&C coach do? They might be able to give
some bits.
But they're not going to be able to give the real intricacies of what goes into that role. And that's something I know you're passionate about as well, and improving that.
100%. And again, I think certainly in the latter stages, in the last couple of years, when I've been in positions at clubs where you're line managing, part-time staff, sports science placements, whatever it might be, you do develop that kind of mentorship role, and then you're really reliant on them people, but also you want them to be as good as they possibly can be to help themselves, and you kind of take them under your wing or whatever you want to call it, and you just want to see them be a good practitioner, and you get a buzz out of it. When you see a practitioner who might have been a placement student under you a while ago going on and landing roles in the future, you go, I'm not saying I taught him everything he knew, but hopefully something rubbed off on him that he thought, that's good, I'm going to take that, and that's put into his practice. So improving the value of sports scientists, S&C coaches, and the other performance staff that are related, it's important, because ultimately we're always having these conversations. It always comes up. It's summer again. All the new jobs come out. Some jobs are coming out with great wages at the minute, and fair play to the clubs that do that. You know, we do look at. We know full-time football work-life balance is crazy. We know it is. You know, it does take over, and sometimes the rewards financially aren't, you know, reciprocated in with what we have to do in terms of the work-life balance. And the only way you can improve that is by proving our value and our worth to a club or as a player, as a support network, or whatever it might be. And that's through upskilling and making sure that we're as valuable as we can be, and sharing ideas, because you know, we get frustrated when, you know, people can't share ideas, or, you know, they don't feel like they want to. But the reality is, like I said to you before, that if I left, say, you know, but if I go to another club now, I'm going to take experiences from my previous clubs that worked really well for me, or that didn't work, and know to avoid them, to that club. So, you know, I'm essentially sharing the ideas that I used to have at that club anyway, in my new environment, and that's happening all over the country at every single club with everyone's experiences. So it's not like, you know, people don't know what's happening at other clubs, because people have worked there, so they're going to know what's happening at clubs. So the sharing of ideas and being really, really secret, I get it. If you're saying, oh, by the way, on Saturday we're going to play a 4-3-3, you think we're going to play a 4-5-1, actually we're going to go low block instead, like that, yeah, might be a little bit different. That's going a bit too far. But saying that, oh, you know, on a Friday we use a little bit of a kind of an upper body 15-minute microdose, like priming session, whatever it might be for Saturday, it's not, you know, revealing all trade secrets. It's just sharing ideas and helping us as S&C coaches. I don't think that's going to give away 3 points at the weekend, which is ultimately what a lot of the top end level is based on. So the sharing ideas thing, it improves us all. It helps everyone. There's no lose to it. You know, if the baseline of sports scientists are upskilling themselves each year, you know, each year that goes by, the baseline's moved, the bar's moved higher. And then that helps us in those discussions if we need to talk about, oh, actually, you know, the wages, I'm not being rewarded right for the work-life balance and the work I'm having to do, and this is my value to the club, or this is my value to you, this is what it should be. And then people go, actually, I can see your worth because you do all this. Yeah, we can have that conversation. So yeah, it's important, you know, it really, really is. So yeah.
Brilliant. Just in a little shift of gears, we've got some exciting stuff coming at the Football Fitness Federation. There's loads of things that we want to do, and a big part of that is, I'm delighted to say that part of Jordan's next venture is going to be part of Football Fitness Federation. So he's joining the team as Product and Brand Development Lead.
Fancy title.
And the reason why is because a lot of the things he's just spoken about, because he understands exactly what the business is, why we set it up, the real reasons behind what we do in terms of the meetings, the podcast, the community. And I'm just delighted that you're getting involved. You've already brought some amazing ideas to what we're doing going forward. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be
100%. 100%. No, it is really exciting. I think, like I say, I massively 100% the mission statement, the brand, I believe in it 100%, because I think it is really important for the industry. And if it's something that we can do, or even selfishly, we know we just nudge the needle on that a little bit further and help the industry and help somebody land a role, or help somebody just take a bit back, and, you know, a player gets back quicker because they've seen a rehab plan on a network meeting, you know, something like that, then that's a success, that's a tick. And hopefully another pair of hands in the company is going to help do that. So yeah, very exciting times ahead, very exciting.
100%. Well, people will have our links in terms of getting in touch with Football Fitness Federation, but do you want to share anything if people want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, easiest way is Twitter, Jordan Tyra 92. You can just go on Football Fitness page. I'll probably be retweeting stuff, so you'll see it through there. But yeah, Football Fitness Federation for me is going to be a big way of hopefully sharing a lot of ideas and linking people from the industry to share more of their ideas as well. So if if people want to get in touch and get onto the podcast, you know, it doesn't have to be through Ben, it can be through me as well. And that's an easy way to do it. So Jordan Tyra 92 at Twitter, company Physical Performance Coach as well. If you want to check that out as well, I'm always retweeting that stuff. So yeah, exciting times. Get in touch. We'll try and make some things happen, some good things happen, hopefully.
You also might see Jordan in a few future episodes as well, taking a co-host role. So yeah, plenty of stuff to come. But Jordan, thanks for that, mate.
No, I appreciate it.